It is February 6th, 2026. And I want you to just, for a moment, imagine a dam breaking.
Oh, more than that.
Not a fissure, you see, not a slow leak, but a total catastrophic structural failure.
The air is thick with it. That's what it feels like this week. It's just heavy, like we're all breathing in the dust of a building that just collapsed on top of us.
We are, at this moment, exactly 1 week out from what I believe historians and certainly legal scholars will refer to as the January 30 event.
I think that's putting it mildly.
It is the single largest release of classified or formerly classified information regarding the Jeffrey Epstein estate in history. And before we even touch the names...
And we are going to get to the name.
Oh, I assure you, we are going to touch the names. But before that, we need to get our heads around the sheer physics of this data dump, the scale of it.
They thought they could wait us out. I mean, that's the only explanation for the delay, right? They thought if they just dragged their feet, if they redacted everything until the pages just looked like, I don't know, modern art, and just hid behind privacy concerns for long enough, we would all just move on. They banked on our collective ADHD.
They did.
They thought we'd be too distracted by the next election cycle or the next celebrity breakup to still care about this.
And they lost that bet. But let's set the scene with some clinical precision, because the scale here is actually quite difficult to visualize.
It is.
So following the passage of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which you'll remember, President Trump signed back in November of 2025.
As a direct challenge to the DOJ, which is its own whole can of worms.
It is. But that act gave the government a hard deadline.
Which they missed, of course.
Which they missed. December came, December went. The Department of Justice cited, processing errors?
Processing errors.
They cited volume.
Yeah.
They cited the need to protect third-party privacy. But then, on January 30th, 2026, just a week ago, the servers finally opened up.
It wasn't a stream. It was a fire hose. It was a tsunami of filth just unleashed on the public.
We are talking about 3.5 million pages of documents.
And that's a number people can't even picture.
Exactly. So let's just try and break down what that actually means for you listening. This isn't just 3.5 million pages of, neat court transcripts or typed depositions.
No, it's a mess.
It's a complete mess.
Yeah.
We are looking at raw email server dumps. We have bank transfer slips from the Virgin Islands that our teams had to digitally reconstruct. We have flight manifests that go all the way back to 1998, cross-referenced with pilot logs.
And the media files?
Yeah.
Ugh. That's the part that keeps me up at night. 2,000 video files.
2,000?
And 180,000 images. I mean, who has the time to watch all that? Who has the stomach for it?
And that is precisely the mission for this deep dive. We have spent the last 7 days, essentially around the clock, running this data through our own forensic analysis.
It's been a long week.
We've been using optical character recognition, OCR, to cross-reference the flight logs with, say, email timestamps. We're trying to separate the signal from the noise. Because when you dump 3.5 million pages on the public all at once, the danger isn't censorship anymore, is it?
No.
The danger is noise.
They're counting on that. That's the new strategy. They're counting on you getting bored reading about, charitable trust structures so that you miss the email where a prince, a literal prince, invites a predator to his mother's house.
Precisely. So our role today is to be your filter. We aren't just reading a list of names. We are looking for the structural integrity of the corruption. We're looking for the mechanics, the cogs in the machine of how this thing operated for 3 decades without being stopped.
And I'm looking for the accountability. Because this isn't just a client list. People keep asking for the list. There is no single list. This is a map. It's a map of the underworld. It's a directory of the so-called polite society that looked the other way while children were being destroyed.
So let's begin to unpack this. We have the source material, we have the new timeline, and we have the fallout. And I think we have to start with the figure who has arguably suffered the most immediate and total collapse since this new tranche of documents hit the server.
Total collapse is right.
We need to talk about the Duke of York, or, as he is now formally styled in the wake of the King's recent decree, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
It is absolute ruin. There's no other way to describe it. I mean, if you look at the timeline we have from all the sources, the slow-motion car crash of Prince Andrew's reputation has been happening for years. But this last week, This is the car exploding.
Let's look at the forensic timeline of it, because the sequence of events here tells a very specific story about what the palace knew and when they knew it.
Exactly.
Late 2025, King Charles III initiates the formal process. The titles are stripped, the styles are removed. He is, for all intents and purposes, evicted from the Royal Lodge.
And remember, at the time, the public was confused. People were thinking, why now? Why so suddenly? We've known about the Virginia Gifford allegations for years. This isn't new.
Exactly. Why the sudden, desperate urgency in late 2025? Well, the sources we're looking at indicate that the palace legal team had been given early access to the January 2026 data dump index.
So they knew what was coming?
They knew it was coming. They didn't have the files, perhaps, but they had the table of contents. They were trying to build a fire break before the avalanche hit.
And when you look at the documents that were released last Friday, you understand exactly why the king had to cut him loose. It's just indefensible. You cannot defend this.
One specific piece of evidence stands out to me as a forensic investigator because it just shatters this casual acquaintance defense that Andrew has been relying on for a decade.
It blows it out of the water.
Completely. It's an email. We found it buried in a folder labeled Correspondence 2004.
The palace email.
Correct. Buried deep in the correspondence files, we found a direct invitation sent to Jeffrey Epstein. And it's not for a coffee at a Starbucks.
No.
It is an invitation for Epstein to dine at Buckingham Palace.
Just stop and think about that for a second.
Yeah.
This is the seat of the British monarchy. This is the Queen's home. It's a place that is meant to represent the dignity of the entire nation.
Mm-hmm.
And here's Andrew, her son, bringing a man who everyone, and I mean everyone in their circle, knew was unconventional at best and a predator at worst. He's bringing him right through the front gates.
And forensically, the date here matters profoundly. This invitation was sent after Epstein's first run-ins with the law in Florida were already becoming known in those whisper networks.
Oh, they knew.
This wasn't ignorance. This was arrogance.
It's the audacity of it all. It's the violation of the sanctity of that institution. You don't bring a sex trafficker to tea with your mother. It's just, it makes your skin crawl.
And it corroborates the timeline of intimacy, doesn't it? You don't invite a casual business contact to dine at the palace. It implies a deep personal connection.
Of course it does.
But the email, as damning as it is just the tip of the iceberg. The January 30 release included photographic evidence that is, well, it's very difficult to contextualize in an innocent way.
Difficult is the polite British way of putting it. It's disgusting. It's stomach-turning.
The image in question, released just last week, it depicts Andrew. He is inside one of Epstein's properties. We've cross-referenced the carpet pattern and the molding in the background. It is a perfect match for the second-floor library of the Palm Beach estate.
So the location is 100% verified, no question.
Location is verified. The metadata on the digital file suggests a time frame that aligns perfectly with his known visits in the mid-2000s. And in this image, Andrew is described in the source material as kneeling or crouching over an unidentified woman who is lying on the floor.
He's a royal prince. Or, well, he was. And he's on the floor, on his knees, crouching over a woman. It's so sordid. It just strips away every single layer of that honorable trade envoy persona he tried to sell everyone during that disastrous BBC interview.
It does.
You look at that photo and you just see the power dynamic. You see the submissiveness of the situation. It's nauseating.
Now, to understand what was likely happening in and around the time those photos were taken, we have to look at the sworn testimony of Juan Alessi.
The house manager. The guy who saw everything.
He was the house manager at the Palm Beach estate, yes. His deposition, which is now fully unsealed in this new batch of documents, is absolutely devastating for Andrew's, "Oh, I only stayed there because it was convenient defense."
That defense is toast.
Yeah.
Alessi blows that completely out of the water.
Well,
He says Andrew didn't just pop in for a weekend. He says Andrew spent weeks there.
2 weeks at a time.
Weeks. In the main guest bedroom. You don't spend weeks with someone you barely know. That's not a thing.
And Alessi is remarkably specific about the daily routine. He testifies under oath that Prince Andrew received daily massages. Now, in the forensic lexicon of the Epstein investigation, we have to be very, very clear about what the word massage implies.
It's not physical therapy for a bad back. We know from the victims, from the flight logs, from the entire structure of Epstein's operation, that massage was the code. It was the transaction. It was the service being provided.
And there is a corroborating document for this from the dump, another email exchange, this time between the literary agent John Brotman and the writer Evgeny Morozov.
Right.
They're discussing a visit to Epstein's New York residence. And in this email, they describe seeing Andy, which was a known colloquialism for the prince, receiving a foot massage from 2 Russian women simultaneously.
2 women at the same time, while he's just sitting there, presumably acting like he owns the place. And this is the same man who told the world he was at Pizza Express.
Yes, the alibi.
The same man who claimed he had a medical condition where he couldn't sweat. And here we have emails describing him getting double massages and now photos of him crouching on the floor over a woman. The lies are just. They're pathological.
The discrepancy between the public denials and the sheer volume of physical evidence in these files is total. The Pizza Express alibi wasn't just a lie. It was a fabrication so completely detached from reality that it suggests a complete and utter lack of fear of being caught.
That's the key. Impunity. That's the word. He thought because he was the Queen's favorite son, the files would never, ever see the light of day. And, for a long time, he was right.
He was.
But now, he's just Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. He's reputationally toast, as the sources say. But here's the thing that just gnaws at me. He's toast, he's humiliated, he's a global laughingstock, but he's not in handcuffs.
And that is the current legal reality. No criminal charges have been filed against him in this jurisdiction. But the court of public opinion has certainly rendered its verdict based on these 3.5 million pages.
It's a life sentence of shame, sure, I get that. But it's not justice. If you or I did 1/10 of what is detailed in those files, we wouldn't be sitting in a slightly smaller mansion. We'd be in a cell, period.
And moving from the spectacular fallout in the British aristocracy, we have to pivot now to the other center of gravity in these files.
Yeah, we do.
Because if Andrew represents the royal connection, the social capital, the prestige that Epstein collected like a trophy, the next phase represents the pinnacle of political power, we have to talk about the president.
Here we go.
This is where the forensic analysis gets very, very complicated because the data points in the January 30 dump are, frankly, contradictory. We have to separate the signal from the noise, especially when we're talking about the 45th and 47th President Donald Trump.
This is what I call the glitch in the narrative. Because depending on which page you read, you get a completely different picture of his involvement. And everyone is just reading the page that suits their politics, but we need to look at the whole messy picture.
Let's start with the new evidence. The things that were released in the email trove just last week. There is a specific email regarding a visit to one of Epstein's properties. The text is quite vivid. It describes a nose print on the glass.
Which is such a weird, specific, and totally haunting detail. A nose print on the glass. What does that even mean?
Well, the context of the email implies a voyeuristic element. It references a partition or perhaps a two-way window into a private area. And the email explicitly claims that Trump knew about the girls. It's a direct assertion right there in the text of the correspondence.
And see, that aligns with the moral company argument. You don't hang out with Jeffrey Epstein for 15 years, party at Mar-a-Lago, go to Victoria's Secret shows together without knowing what the man is about. Birds of a feather. You cannot tell me he was friends with him for that long and didn't know. It's just not believable.
However, as investigators, we must balance that piece of correspondence with the other evidence, specifically the audio evidence. The sources provided to us include analysis of the Wolf tapes.
Right, the Michael Wolff recordings.
Recordings made by the author Michael Wolff during his interviews with Epstein back in 2017.
And these tapes are just explosive. You hear Epstein's voice, that really thick, arrogant New York accent, and he's claiming, quote, "I was Donald's closest friend for 10 years. He's bragging about it.
He goes much further than that. Epstein claims on the tape that he knew intimate details about Trump's life, including a very specific and sordid claim about the Lolita Express and Trump's wife, Melania.
Yeah, I heard that part.
He makes comments about cuckolding. It's Epstein presenting himself as the alpha, as the one in control of the relationship.
It's Epstein being Epstein. He's bragging that he was the one pulling the strings, or at the very least that he was on the same level. He wanted people to believe he had dirt on Donald Trump.
But, and this is a very significant but, for a forensic investigator, we have to look at the sworn testimony in the files that directly contradicts Epstein's bragging. We have to go back to Juan Alessi.
Right, the house manager. The guy who saw everything, the guy who served the food and was always there.
Alessi stated, under oath, that while Donald Trump did visit the Palm Beach house, he never stayed overnight.
Okay.
Alessi also testified that Trump would come over for dinner, but, and I find this detail absolutely fascinating, He wouldn't eat at the main dining table with Epstein and the other guests. He would eat in the kitchen with the staff.
Which is, I mean, it's bizarrely on brand for Trump in a way.
Perhaps. But Alessi also explicitly stated that Trump never had a massage at Epstein's house. And when the lawyers asked him why, Alessi said, quote, "He's got his own spa."
So we have a direct conflict. We have Epstein, who we all know is a pathological liar and a manipulator, bragging on a tape that they were best friends and doing all sorts of horrible things. And then we have the house manager under oath saying, no, he just came for dinner and ate in the kitchen.
This is the friction. The legal proofs, the flight logs, for example, which show him flying on Epstein's plane but never to the island, and the Alessi testimony, they paint a picture of social proximity, but perhaps not criminal participation in the specific acts happening at the house. However, the emails suggesting he knew about the girls point directly to knowledge.
And that's the moral failure right there. If you know your terrific guy friend is trafficking underage girls and you do nothing, that's complicity. Silence is complicity. Even if he didn't stay the night, he gave Epstein the cover of his friendship, of his brand. That matters. You don't get a pass just because you ate in the kitchen.
It does matter from a moral standpoint, but if we are looking for the smoking gun of direct participation in the newly released files, the kind of evidence that leads to indictments rather than just moral condemnation, it is much, much heavier in the case of the 42nd president, Bill Clinton.
Oh, this is where the pivot gets aggressive. Because with Clinton, the I didn't know defense is just crumbling brick by brick. I mean, it's not just crumbling, it's been pulverized by these new documents.
Let's look at the deposition of Johanna Sjoberg, one of the primary victims in the case. Her full, unredacted testimony is in this new release. And she states quite clearly that Epstein spoke to her about Bill Clinton.
Clinton likes them young. That is a quote. That is what she said, Epstein told her. Epstein told the victim, Clinton likes them young. You can try to argue it's hearsay, but when you stack it against all the other evidence we now have, it's damning.
And then there are the flight logs. Now, we have known about some of the flights for years, but the Transparency Act has clarified the full scope of it. We can now confirm at least 17 separate flights.
17, not one or two, 17 times. To Africa, to Asia, to Europe, and the excuse was always humanitarian missions for the Clinton Foundation.
Yes, that was the official reason given.
But you do not take a predator's private jet, a jet which everybody in that world called the Lolita Express, for humanitarian work 17 times if you don't know who you're flying with. You just don't. The math doesn't add up.
There is also the matter of the artwork. The January 30 release confirmed the full inventory of the Manhattan townhouse.
Yes. Parsing Bill.
The painting, it depicts Bill Clinton in the Oval Office. He is wearing a blue dress, very similar to Monica Lewinsky's, and red high-heeled shoes.
It's psychological warfare. I mean, why does Jeffrey Epstein have that? Why does he keep a painting of a former president of the United States cross-dressing in his house? It's a trophy.
It's a statement.
It's leverage. It's him saying, I own you. I can depict you however I want. You don't hang that on your wall unless you have some kind of profound hold over the subject of the painting.
It certainly suggests a very complex and disturbing power dynamic. It implies that Epstein viewed Clinton not as a superior or even an equal, but as a possession, a curiosity.
Exactly.
And the legal system is finally beginning to catch up to this. The sources we have mentioned, the February 2026 contempt of Congress vote.
Finally. It took a contempt of Congress vote to force the Clintons to testify. They dragged their feet for years. They issued denials. They hid behind their lawyers. But the subpoena power finally broke through that wall.
It did.
The I didn't know defense doesn't work so well when you're under oath and the people questioning you are holding a mountain of flight logs and sworn witness statements.
So we have royalty exiled. We have presidents implicated by, at the very least, association, extensive flight logs, and some truly bizarre art. But to understand how this network actually functioned, how it stayed secret for so long, we have to go inside the properties themselves. We have to look at the infrastructure of the abuse.
The stage for the crimes.
Precisely. And the new files give us a floor plan level understanding of 9 East 71st Street, the Manhattan townhouse.
I call it the Museum of Depravity. It wasn't a home. It was a stage set for a nightmare. It was designed to intimidate.
It is an apt description. The sources, including inventories and sworn testimony from staff, describe an interior design that goes far beyond simply eccentric and lands firmly in the realm of the sociopathic.
The entrance hall. Let's just start there. You walk in the front door, and what do you see? It's not flowers. It's not nice landscape painting. You see rows of individually framed eyeballs.
Prosthetic eyeballs, yes. the kind manufactured for injured soldiers, each one in its own frame.
It's about being watched. From the very moment you step inside that house, you are being told, I see you. Everything you do here is being watched. It's an intimidation tactic that's just masked as weird art. And then you have the piano.
A Steinway grand piano, yes, a beautiful instrument, but it is surmounted by a stuffed black poodle.
Who does that? What kind of person does that? It's not just bad taste. It's a statement about dominance over nature. It's about taking something living and beautiful and making it a frozen, dead object for your amusement, which is exactly what he did with the girls. He objectified everything and everyone.
And then there's the sculpture of the hanging woman suspended in the main stairwell. It all sets a tone of profound intimidation. But as a forensic investigator, I am less interested in the art, as telling as it is, and more interested in the wiring of the house.
The media room.
Maria Farmer's testimony is absolutely crucial here. She was one of the first to speak out. She worked for Epstein, and she describes a media room hidden behind a nondescript door, but it wasn't for watching movies.
No, it was a surveillance center, a spy hub.
She describes a bank of monitors, and her testimony is chillingly specific. Toilet, toilet, bed, bed. Pinhole cameras concealed in the light fixtures, in the smoke detectors, in the bathrooms and the bedrooms. This wasn't just a bachelor pad, this was an intelligence gathering operation.
This is the why. This is the answer to the question everyone asks. Why did nobody stop him? Because he had the tapes. You don't wire your toilets unless you were building an insurance policy made of blackmail material. He was collecting dirt on the most powerful men in the world. He was running a blackmail factory in the middle of the Upper East Side, and they all just walked right into the trap.
And if the townhouse in Manhattan was the collection point for the intelligence, then the island was the extraction point.
God, the island.
The photos released by the House Oversight Committee from Little St. James are, well, they are profoundly disturbing.
The creepy room.
Yeah.
That's what they're calling it online.
Oh.
And for good reason. It's the stuff of nightmares.
There's one photo in particular. It shows a room with a dentist's chair in the center.
Which is terrifying enough in this context, right?
Oh.
A medical chair in a private home on a private island. Nothing good happens there.
And on the walls surrounding the chair, there are 12 masks.
Orange-hued masks. Men's faces. All with the eyes wide open, just staring.
It implies a ritual, or perhaps a mechanism of dissociation for the victims. Why the masks? Were the perpetrators wearing them to remain anonymous? Were the victims forced to look at them? It suggests a level of organized, almost ritualistic abuse that goes far beyond simple gratification. It looks like something out of a Stanley Kubrick film.
It looks like a set from a horror movie, but it was real life. And then in the middle of all this creepiness, you have the painting of the Pope.
A portrait of Epstein and the Pope, yes.
It's that same mix of the sacred and the profane again. He gets off on corrupting powerful symbols. The Queen's house, the Oval Office, the Vatican. He wanted to drag everything pure and respected down into the dirt with him. He wanted to prove that everyone and everything has a price.
And he had the money to prove it. Or, more accurately, he had access to other people's money. To understand the engine of this operation, we have to talk about the financiers. And the January 30 dump clarified the relationship with the billionaire Leon Black in a way we have not seen before.
Follow the money. You always follow the money, and you will find the rot.
The internal report from the law firm Ditcher LLP, which is cited in our sources and now public, confirms that Leon Black paid Jeffrey Epstein $158 million.
$158 million for tax advice. I don't care how good your accountant is,
Yeah.
Nobody pays $158 million for advice unless that advice is either saving you billions of dollars or buying your silence, or both.
Well, according to the files, it did save him billions. And this is where we need to get a little technical for a moment, because this is the absolute key to understanding the financial engine of the whole network. How does a convicted sex offender save a billionaire $2 billion in taxes?
Yeah, walk us through it, make it make sense, because it sounds insane.
The files detail a financial strategy called the GREAT. That stands for Grantor Retained Annuity Trust.
Sounds incredibly boring, which I'm sure is the point.
That is precisely the point. Epstein was a master of using boring complexity to hide criminality. Here's how it works, in simple terms. You, the billionaire, put assets, say, stocks that you think are about to explode in value into this special trust.
Right.
You then set it up so the trust pays you back an annuity that is equal to the original value of the assets plus a tiny, tiny bit of interest set by the government.
So on paper, it looked like the value of the gift to your kids or whoever the beneficiary is zero.
Correct. According to the IRS, you haven't given anything away because you're getting all the money back in these annuity payments. But, and here's the magic trick, if the stock price skyrockets while it's in the trust, all of that extra growth, all that profit, goes directly to your heirs, completely tax-free.
So let me get this straight. If I'm Leon Black and I put in $100 million of my company stock, and while it's in the trust, it turns into $500 million, my kids get the $400 million profit without paying a single dime in estate or gift tax.
Precisely. And the documents show Epstein orchestrated this on a massive scale for Black's Apollo Global Management shares right after the 2008 crash. He used the volatility of the market to freeze the estate value and pass on billions. That is why Leon Black paid him $158 million. It was a commission on a multi-billion-dollar heist from the U.S. Treasury.
It's the transactional nature of the evil that just gets me. Epstein wasn't just a pimp or a creep to these guys. He was a financial wizard. He made them richer. He serviced their greed just as much as he serviced their other appetites.
And Black knew exactly who he was dealing with. This wasn't an innocent financial arrangement. We found a poem in the files, a handwritten poem from Leon Black to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday.
The VFPC poem, I read it, I felt sick.
Vanity Fair poster child. Black wrote, and I am quoting, "With this net of fish, Jeff's now the old man in the sea."
And how did he sign it? He signed it, "Love and Kisses, Leon." This was after Epstein was already a convicted sex offender in Florida, after the allegations were public. Love and Kisses. They didn't care. They just did not care. The money was too good. The tax loopholes were too lucrative. They literally sold their souls for a tax break.
It demonstrates, I think, quite clearly that the network wasn't just held together by blackmail, it was held together by mutual greed. Epstein provided a service, both financial and sexual, that the global elite found absolutely indispensable.
A one-stop shop for depravity.
We have spent the last hour dissecting the anatomy of this monster. We've looked at the royals, the presidents, the surveillance state he built, the money that fueled it all. But we have to conclude with the cold, hard reality of where we stand today on February 6, 2026.
It's a grim reality. It's not a happy ending.
Jeffrey Epstein is dead. The official ruling is suicide. Ghislaine Maxwell is serving 20 years in prison. When you look at the totality of these 3.5 million pages...
The cells are empty. That's the reality. For everyone else, the cells are empty.
And there is a misconception out there that we really need to correct. People are still looking for the list. They think there is a single notarized document that lists every single client.
The client list is a ghost. It doesn't exist in that neat, tidy format. It never did.
Exactly right. The list is the web. It's the flight logs combined with the little black book contacts, combined with the thousands of emails, combined with the sworn testimony of Juan Alessi. It is a puzzle that the public now has to piece together.
And that's what makes it so incredibly frustrating for you, for the listener. You see the evidence. You see Leon Black paying $158 million for a tax dodge. You see Prince Andrew crouching on the floor in a photograph. You see Bill Clinton's name on flight logs 17 times. And yet, Leon Black is still a billionaire. The presidents are still powerful, revered figures. Andrew's exiled, sure, but he's just sitting in a different mansion, just without his fancy title. There are no real consequences for them.
It raises the fundamental question of justice versus exposure, doesn't it? The Transparency Act gave us exposure. It finally gave us the truth, unredacted. But it didn't give us handcuffs.
And it leaves us with the scariest thought of all. If they can get away with this, with this amount of evidence, with this level of depravity exposed to the entire world, what can't they get away with?
And there is one final loose end that, as a forensic investigator, truly haunts me. The surveillance. We know the cameras were there. We know the media room existed. We know from testimony about the hard drives that were kept in the safe.
So where are the tapes?
Exactly. We have 3.5 million pages of paper. But the video archive, the actual compromat, that material didn't just vanish into thin air.
Someone has it, or someone destroyed it. But if it still exists, then the game isn't over. It just means there's a new ringmaster holding all the leverage.
Who is watching the watchers?
Exactly. Who is watching the watchers now?
The files are open. They are public. You can go online right now and read them for yourself. The investigation is no longer solely in the hands of the Department of Justice. It is in the hands of the public. It is in your hands.
Don't let this story die. Don't let the sheer volume of paper bury the truth. Read the names, remember the victims, and stay angry because they are counting on you to forget.